Welcome to the Advice Show, media with a common sense approach. So, some of you may not heard, but the NFL is considering banning the N word. That if you use the N word on the football field, that you can get your team a penalty. Well, I'm going to show you what Matt Patrick and Quanell X thought about this particular subject, and as always, it's pretty funny. Go ahead and roll the clip.
Well, football is a tough game, everyone knows that. But if the NFL passes a new rule it's considering, players will also have to watch their mouths. It would mean a 15-yard penalty if any player uses a discriminatory word on the field. As you can imagine, this one got the guys going in the Fox face-off.
Well, Matt, we've learned now that some of the NFL owners and some of the NFL Player Association administrative level officials want to implement a 15-yard penalty on any player caught using the N-word on the field. I know that grieves you. You're a big football fan, and for them to no longer be allowed to use the N-word is very painful and devastating to men like yourself. But I think it's a great rule because it's going to teach even young African-American youth football players that even if you don't know your history and you're ignorant to it, this generation who's aware of the N-word, the pain associated with it, and the devastation attached to that word are not going to allow you to do it. So it's going to help black athletes and help white athletes also, because both black and white athletes could possibly be using that word on the field. In fact, I know some of the black athletes are doing it, but they should be corrected from doing it also.
So you've said before here, there's two different, there's two different versions of that word. There's the bad version, and then there's the version that ends in A, that you've said yourself is just supposed to be used by rappers and it's okay. So is the referee going to have to ask the player, white or black, which version he was using? Was he mad, or was he just, using it as a colloquialism? And then what happens when a white ref throws a flag on a black player? This is a ridiculous rule, Quanell. Why don't we just start coddling them all? And if you swear at all, we're going to turn you over our knee and we're going to spank you. No. This is the reason why people don't watch football anymore.
No, football is still the #1 sport in America. Let me correct you. What I said was that many in the hip-hop community have taken the term the N-word and put a new phrase on it, put a new spin on it as a term of affection. Yes, it's ignorant to do that, but many of our young rappers from the hip-hop community are very ignorant to their history also. If you gave them an adequate and thorough knowledge of themselves and taught them their history, which is not taught in the public school system, they would not use that word. So many of the elders, the older ones, must properly educate our young people about the word. Now, a white ref should be allowed to throw a penalty on a black player if he uses that word. I don't see anything wrong with it, because it's not about the color of the person throwing the flag. It's about the person making the correct action against it.
A professional football game. This is a violent sport. I don't care what name you call me. My job as a football player is to knock you on your butt. And if I'm doing my job and you call me a bad name, that means I was successful in my job. What are we doing to this game?
Man, politics can become a very physical sport. Politics is a very dirty entity, and you're involved in politics. So if somebody called you racist, cracker, redneck, would you accept that because you say that's all in politics?
Have I just knocked him on his butt? He can call me whatever he wants. Why don't you go watch tennis? I think that would be a good sport for you. All they do is go, I never hear them use the N-word. I'm going to go watch a football game where I don't care what the guy calls me. I'm going to put him on his butt, and if I do that, I'm going to win that game.
Man, I'm going to pray for you. You need prayer, brother. You really do.
Now, why Matt Patrick got a problem with the NFL banning that word? Shouldn't he be like, you know what, that's a good thing because, when black people don't like when whites use it, then it's a good way to stop it from going on in professional sports. Why he wasn't on supportive of that particular argument, what I thought he would be supportive of. But no, he's actually supportive of black players using that derogatory name. Now, the thing is, I agree with the NFL banning the N-word. Most jobs do not allow you to use racial slurs on them, including that word. It don't matter if you're black. You don't supposed to be using that word. That word was given to us when we got to the shores of America, at least the Africans that came through the transatlantic slave trade, not the Africans that was here already. But those who came through the transatlantic slave trade, and we were given that word as a mean to demean us, to humiliate us, to say that we aren't even equal to be a human being. And black people have took that word and say, you know what, we're going to strip the 2 letters off of it, put another letter on the end of it, and we're going to call it as something different. And there are a lot of black people who say, you know what, I can say that word or whatever, but nobody else better say that word. And my only issue that I have, if you want to say that word, that's your business. Do what you do. But my biggest issue with black people using that word is when you use it in a public forum, when you use it among non-black people. I have an issue with that, because how can you sit here and tell non-black people don't say that word